Okay, so this is going to help you with molarity, which we've already gone over, and then we're going to start practicing on dilutions. On the worksheet for molarity, molarity does have to be in liters, okay, when you get to volume. So if you are given milliliters, you take your milliliters and divide by 1,000 to give you liters. So just make sure that you do convert. Okay, the triangle method I don't recommend. If you already understand it from yesterday's lesson, then continue just doing the formula, which is mole divided by liters equals capital M, and that's for molarity, which means concentration. If you need a little bit of help on when to multiply, when to divide an organization, feel free to use the triangle method. Anything side to side gets multiplied, top to bottom gets divided. So we'll just plug in what we have. I'm going to only do one of the molarities because we did this yesterday, and you guys will need more help on the dilutions on the right side of the paper. Find the molarity of a solution in which 5 moles, so I'm going to put my 5 here because according to the triangle, moles goes on top. And I'll write 5 here, of NaCl that are dissolved in 2.5 liters. Liters goes in the bottom right, and I'll go ahead and write it. Okay, we're trying to find molarity. So these two numbers are top to bottom. Do I multiply or divide? I'm going to divide. I'm just going to, and the answer is 2. Okay. So go ahead and practice more of those. I can tell you, make sure you cross out number 5 at the very bottom. You don't have to do that. As well as you don't have to do the conversions of grams to moles in 2, 3, or 4 either. Let's go to this side. I'm just going to fold my paper. This is the dilution side. Dilutions can be in milliliters. And I'm just going to make a note there so I don't start converting my milliliters to liters. It can stay in milliliters. Give me an example of dilution. Don't forget to do that. That's 10 points off the bat. Here's our new formula we're going to be working with. Okay. This, for dilutions, it helps to draw the pictures. So if I add 25 milliliters of water to 125 milliliters, so you already have 125 milliliters. Because it says you're going to add 25 milliliters. Okay, and the reason it says M1V1 equals M2V2, the ones means the initial, or what you start with. Okay, and that's the problem that we're seeing in trying to identify. The 2's, M2V2, that's your final volume and your final concentration. So again, we already had 125 milliliters because if we're going to add something to it, something has to already exist. So our 125 milliliters, is that going to be V1 or V2? It'll be V1. This is what we're starting with. Okay, we have a bucket of 125 milliliters, and then we're going to add 25 milliliters. So our final volume is going to be 150 milliliters. When we add it together, yeah, and that's going to be our V2. Okay, not every single problem. I think there's only one other problem that you have to find the final volume. Usually it'll say the final volume is this, and I'll work some more with you. Okay, does anyone have any questions on how I got the 150 as the final? Okay, it's because I started off with 125, added 25 more milliliters, so now that's what it's going to end up as. My initial right here, it says, was 125 milliliters of 0.15. So that's my B1, M1. M1 is 0.15. What will the molarity of the diluted solution be? So I don't know what the concentration of this is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'll plug in all my numbers into the formula. Since I'm kind of short on room, I'm going to do it right here. So M1, and I just copy my numbers that I got. B1. B2 is 150. Now the first step is to multiply these two right here. That gave me 18.75 equals M2 times 150. Well, we want to know what M2 equals all alone. So we need to get rid of the 150 so we can have this by itself. We divide by 150, so they cancel. Okay, start with the formula, plug in the numbers you do have, move some things around algebraically, and you'll get your final answer. Okay, if you know what you're doing, you can go on, but I'm going to continue to do some. Number 2, if I add water to 100 milliliters, is that 100 milliliters that they just gave us V1 or V2? It's going to be V1, okay? That's the first volume we start off with that we already have. It says, if I add water to this pre-existing 100 milliliters, okay, and then here's the M1, okay, this is the concentration it started at, so that's my M1, 0.15, until the final volume. It's nice here because they said that it was the final volume. So we don't have to add anything, we don't have to think about it any further. This is our second volume, the 150. What will the molarity of the diluted solution be? So you have this beaker right here of 100 milliliters, and then you're going to add some water. Okay, if you're adding water, which means you're diluting it, do you think the concentration is going to be higher or lower? The concentration should be lower if you're diluting it. So you can kind of double check your answers. It needs to be smaller than 0.15. So I'll plug in everything to the formula. I don't know what M2 is, and V2 is 150. So I'm going to work this out first. The two numbers I can multiply, I'm going to multiply them in my calculator. It gave me 15. I want M2 all by itself. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 150. That cancels. For number 3, I'll help label, what's our initial and what's our final, or what do we start off with, but I'm going to have you finish the calculations on number 3. How much 0.05 molarity can be made by diluting 250 milliliters? So we're going to be diluting this. This is what we're starting with, okay? So that is going to be our V1. and it started off at 10 moles, so that'll be our M1. And this is our M2. So you are going to plug everything in to that formula. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to make some notes down on number 4. It says I have 345 milliliters of a 1.5 concentration. Okay, whoever's doing the experiment, that's what she said she or he started off with. Okay, then if I boil the water, boiled, until the volume of the solution is 250. So that 250 is after. Okay, so that's going to be V2. What will the molarity of the second one be? So that we're solving for M2. If it helps, you can write down somewhere that milliliters or liters is always volume. And then the capital M is for molarity, which is concentration. Okay, when you're finished with the worksheet, turn it in to me today. And then also, we're going to practice dilutions again tomorrow. So we're done going over molarity. Okay, this one where it's just moles divided by liters, and sometimes you have to convert into grams. So if you're still confused on that, please come to tutoring. And today's day 1 of dilution, so we're just getting started. We need some more practice.